Thank you for the invitation to this very important meeting. My task is to talk briefly about the dynamics of the global economy in this period of time. Not easy task, but I shall try to, at least to be clear and simple. I don't know, I hope also correct, you know. All this type of speech starts telling that we are in an era of change. And so I do the same. And the big change we are now this year is a change in the driving force of world economy. That's a substantial decrease in speed of the developing countries and a little better performance of the industrialized countries. And the result is slower growth than previous years. In the IMF forecast, world economic growth is 3.1, not a disaster, but lower than last year. And I do think that even this forecast, looking at the last figures, is a little optimist. I do think that the real growth this year will be around 2.9. And emerging countries will be still more than 4%, but down from 5% of last year's. And industrialized countries will be 1.9, 1.8. That is a little higher than last year. But the other new events are influencing the world economy, and it's a continuous decrease in the price of all commodities. 90% of world commodities had substantial decrease in price in the last years. You know, food average minus 15. Non-oil raw materials, non-oil minus 18, oil minus 45, and manufacturing goods, even manufacturing goods had a world decrease, price decrease of minus 8. If you sum up all this, you know, you have an idea of you know, an economy that is has risks of stagnation. I don't say that there is stagnation because a growth around 3% is still bearable, you know, but with new risks of stagnations. I repeat, the best news are coming from US and Europe. But even taking that, is the lowest growth in international trade of the last 20 years. So it's, this is the most remarkable figure that is summing up the uncertainty of the existing situation. I don't want to put a special attention on the monetary and aspects of this, but certainly the major aspect has been the fluctuation between the dollar and the other major currencies. We can sum up a rate of exchange average 1.3 euro, US dollar last year, and around 1.1 this year. So even this is a major change. Major change that it was really, I think, one of the reasons, together with the lower price of raw materials, but one of the reasons, the difficulties, of the increased difficulties of the growing, of the, let's say, non-industrialized countries, because concentrated in the export of raw materials, and many of these countries indebted in dollars. So we have a double squeezing on the lower income level countries, you know. So it's, if we give a glance, then we shall go back to this, to the European growth, will be around 1.4, very low, but for European standards, let's say, better than in the last years, but with a very substantial difference. You know, you go from 6.5% of Ireland to 0.5 or around zero for Greece, and in the last day, this morning, a paper, probably a necessary revision for Germany. A little downgrading of the German growth because of the Volkswagen case and other, you know, but too recent in order to give a precise quantitative idea. US economy around 2.5%, so good performance. Let's say, even if this has not been reputed sufficient to, let's say, increase the rate of interest of the American economy to correct the low cost of the dollar, of the low rate of interest of the dollar inside the United States. Then these are clear pictures, but a question mark is coming from China. You know, 10 years ago, we should have not yet put China in the main lines of our picture, but now the Chinese economy is almost equivalent to the American, to the European, and so is a major aspect. And we see that the question mark that we shall analyze now of Chinese economy is one of the most important issues and challenges of the today economy. But to end this broad picture before passing to analyze China and the specific detail, the result of the picture I did is clearly an extremely low level of inflation. Euro area 0.1, US dollar area 0.3, but in any case much lower than the targets of the central banks in this field, you know. So this is the summing up of an idea of a difficult picture of world economy. And this is the reason of the delay of the increase of the rate of interest of the Federal Reserve System to the end of the year or to the beginning of the next year. I think that is more probably the beginning of the next year that in December. But anyway, this is we shall see. But what is clear that the quantity easing in Europe will not end before end of, I think, 2017. So there will be this, for a while, this difference in monetary policy between the United States and Europe. And this will have another influence in the same direction in the rate of exchange between the dollar and the euro. In the year in 2015, due to this change and for accidental reason also, we had always problem in the financial market. You know, the Greek case now is in the shadow, you know, but it's still there. The problem has been solved for the short time, but it's not solved for the long time. So sooner or later, the Greek problem will come back. And then we had the Chinese summer, let us call the Chinese summer in the last months, that has been an additional reason for uneasiness in the world financial market. So to pass from this general picture to a short description of the specific market, we have, as I hinted before, a healthy growth in the United States, probably less than forecast, than the average forecast, but still sound and healthy, and in line with the main subject of our meeting, pushed by a strong technological leadership. We cannot underestimate the influence on the American economy of the leadership, especially in the new technologies and in the new networks and this not only Silicon Valley, but Silicon Valley as a symbol of this innovation. I was struck by the fact that the Chinese president official visit had the main event in California, you know, and the discussion, the main issue of the discussion of between Obama and Xi was cyber war that is absolutely linked, a political question mark, but strictly linked to the technological evolution, to the technological progress. And the media have not, in my opinion, have not deepened enough this chapter that will be one of the main evolution of world politics. Clearly, in this picture, there are also political reaction in the positive side to correct the decrease of trade. We have the two big agreements for free trade, the Pacific one that is already in the pipeline, and the Atlantic one, there's still some problem. But clearly, these two agreements are preparing the recovery of, they are hoping to prepare the recovery of the international trade. To the, let's say, linear development of American economy, we have the Chinese question mark. There is an official version that is the new normal is called 7%. And maybe correct, maybe correct. There are still some problem to deepen because 7% is much lower than the past, but still very high level of growth. And it's not easy to get when you have 0.8 growth in energy consumption, when you have 17% decrease in imports in the last months, decrease in car production. You have also, let's say, the tertiary sector that is growing healthy, and then I don't mention the housing, new house statistics that are still down. So you have many statistical, let's say, incongruent figures now in the picture. So many experts say that this 7% will be lower. Someone say that will be around 5 or 4. I followed this debate. I try to follow this debate. My opinion that will not be much lower than 7, but 6.5, 6.3, around this can be. But it's a substantial decrease because of the importance of Chinese economy. It cannot be balanced by the more than 7% increase of India because of the difference in dimension of the two economy. But in economic terms, there is also a new political action by the Chinese government. Let's say China is becoming more and more independent, or at least a stronger and stronger actor in economic policy in the world. The Trans-Pacific Trade Agreement is excluding China, even if when you get into it, the exclusion is not an exclusion because China is bilateral agreement with many countries that are inside the agreement that automatically will extend the agreement to China. But anyway, in theory, is out of it. But China answered with two political enormous decisions. The Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and the Silk Road. The first one is very important because I wrote a few months an article that was that it was a very interesting international political case because not only 21 Asian countries immediately decided to participate to that, but because United Kingdom did it without, let's say, an agreement with the United States, and UK never does anything without agreement with the United States, only in very exceptional case. And my interpretation was that this was a great occasion for the City of London to become the market of the renminbi. And this morning, in the first page of FT, there is the first emission of bonds in renminbi, in yuan, in the London Stock Exchange, and a plan to make the London Stock Exchange as the market for the Chinese currency before the visit of the Chinese president next week to London. So there is this very interesting challenge between the two big world financial markets, and China is clearly the Chinese market is clearly the goal of both. The Silk Road is another aspect in order to link, but I don't want to go into the details of that. But now is more a political announcement than a real economic decision-making process. But is moving all the economists around China. It's not now moving the European economy, but let's say Pakistan is building a new harbor, Iran, Bandar Abbas wants to link to China. So it's an expansion of the economic Chinese influence. So we have to follow it because it will be very, very, very important. But to end with China, why the moment is so difficult and challenging? Because the strategy is from investment and export to an increase in internal consumption. And this movement of 1.4 billion people will change all the world economy. But this passage is much more difficult than forecasts, for a simple reason also, because it's difficult to move to consumption if you have no health system and no pension system. And so now the injection of liquidity into the Chinese market does not translate in consumption, but in saving. And so it's this is the great challenge of the great Chinese challenge. Another point that is underestimated is the new anti-corruption fighting inside China. Why is so important for economy? Because it's going much extended, much wider than we could imagine. It will be beyond 100,000 public employees, you know, all the province. And so you have a double effect: decrease of luxury consumption that were fruit of, let's say, corruption. And, you know, because of this enormous diffusion, you have also an effect on the decision-making process of the public sector. Let's say the public managers and, let's say, public employees, they don't take decision, or they delay decision because of this event. So something that in theory has no economic importance is now very, very stringent and important. I don't want to be too long. The other great issues are the decrease of Russian GDP. Russian economy is not so important, but will be -4, -3.7, -4 in this bracket. And, you know, the reasons is clear: oil price and sanctions, and with a substantial number of people living under subsistence level. And this is another two events that I only list without going deep into, is Turkey and Brazil. Turkey, look, 1 year ago, if we should have done this meeting 1 year ago, I should have listed Turkey, the new flying birds of the world economy, with influence from Balkans to all Central Asia. And now with this incredible situation, political situation of the Middle East, Turkey is a problem, a great problem. And even if this has not yet been translated in the war statistic and forecast, will have an enormous influence in the Mediterranean area. Last point that has given decrease in the BRICS is Brazil. You know how difficult is the Brazilian situation, and all Latin America will have minus 1.5, minus 1.7 growth. Different from Africa, with all the problem, immigration, poverty, and so on. Africa still grows. Sub-Saharan Africa still growing 4% this year. Clearly, when you are 3%, 3.2% of the world economy, and you grow 4%, you have not a big influence in the world growth. But it's still interesting that in spite of Boko Haram, of terrorism, of ISIS, of everything, the poor African economy is in some way coming not so badly, I repeat, with this. Clearly, I have to end with the problems, the political problems we have on the table that can change the picture for the future. Let's say the political tension that are all around Europe, Ukraine, Syria, and Libya. They are the three main issues that have also strong indirect consequence in enhancing the already existing problem of migration. Enhancing because the migration has always been a problem, you know. In my personal experience, how many times Gaddafi menaced me to send me thousands of migrants when I was prime minister, you know. But you could deal, and nothing in this direction happened. Now, in Syria and in Libya, you cannot deal. Events happens, you know, and just today, Turkey told that if Aleppo is taken, 6 million migrants from Syria will arrive to Europe. You know, you have this new situation absolutely out of control. You know, how much this will influence the economy? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. I know that the new event, I end with this, the real new political event of the year is the flourishing of a territorial terrorism. ISIS, and with all the name is taken, is the real new event. And I do think that the most part of the question marks can be solved only with a great agreement between the United States and Russia. Clearly, it's not this place to try to deepen why this is so important to tackle, but we are not yet arrived to this point. But I repeat, if there is not this agreement that put an order also to the other government from Qatar to Turkey to Libya to so on, we shall not have a, let's say, well-ordered world politics and world economy. And if, I repeat, we have not an ordered world politics, it's difficult to get back an ordered growth in world economy. Thank you.